Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, can you repeat that?
Yeah, sure. Uh,
Recording in progress.
in any event, for those of you thinking about running, there's two aspects. There's the running and there's the serving. The running is the politics. It's working with the district leaders, some of whom are on this call, working with the Democratic Party to elect Democrats to office both locally at the county level, state level, and national level. Um, and it's being that political animal. We are a community that runs as Democrats and Republicans, unlike some, like in South Orange, where they don't run as a party. So you have to feel comfortable doing that. You have to be comfortable being a member of the Democratic Party and doing what you can to elect Democrats. Then the service side is the government side. And that's really where we take politics out of it and we just run the government as best we can. We don't always make the right decisions. We make what we think are the right decisions. Sometimes they don't work out, and we have to go back and rethink those. But that's sort of the joy of being on the township committee, is you get to figure out how to tackle some of the most important problems. And you've all heard of Tip O'Neill's famous line, "Is all politics is local," and we can all tell you that it is true. Um, if you think you're going to be anonymous in town, not as a local official, and that's important because you want to be accessible to folks. People have questions, and they want to feel comfortable. So it's a great opportunity. It really is a chance for you to get involved, to be involved. Your first term, just so you all know, is 1,000 days plus. So it's a big commitment. We spend a lot of time outside the home, although now it's somewhat easier with Zoom, but there's still a lot of in-person meetings, a lot of activities where you're expected to show up. So it is a commitment of time, and you're going to have to square that away with your family life and also your work life. But it's very rewarding. So I think that's about all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Vic. And for those of you who are joining us, um, as I was saying earlier, if you weren't here when I first said it, the members of the Township Committee have meetings all the time, almost every night of the week. We have four members of the Township Committee with us here right now. We have Victor Luca, who's our longest serving member of the Township Committee. We have Nancy Adams, who is currently our mayor. We have Dean Daffis, who has formerly been the mayor, and we have Malia Herman, our newest member of the Township Committee. And we're going to talk a lot more about serving on the Township Committee, running for the Township Committee, and how it works. But I wanted to give Vic an opportunity to speak first because he has two, if not three, other meetings that he's got to go to this evening. So I wanted to give him an opportunity to speak with us first. You've heard from the longest serving member of the Township Committee. Now we're going to ask the newest member of the Township Committee, somebody who's just been serving on the Township Committee for less than 2 months at this point. But I know from my conversations with her is absolutely loving it. She's very recently had to run for Township Committee, so she might speak to that as well. And at this point, we're going to turn it over to Malia Herman.
Hi, thank you, Ian. I'm checking the date. So it's February 19, so I'm less than 2 months in. Um, and you're right, I've absolutely been loving it. As Vic said earlier, it's really such a wonderful opportunity to serve the community. I was a reporter before, and so the best way I can describe this is as a reporter, my favorite thing was talking to people, reporting stories, researching. And in many ways, that's a lot of what you're doing as an elected official is when you're trying to work on something, work on an issue, solve a problem, deal with something. A lot of times you're just researching and reaching out to people and having conversations. I meant to add up by numbers. I wanted to add all the numbers, how many coffees I've had in this past month. It's been a lot. And phone calls and meetings. And so it is a lot. And so I tried to add up the numbers. And just to give you a sense, when Ian and Vic say it's about a meeting every night, that's about accurate. So there's 2 township committee meetings a month, and then we have 7 subcommittees: public safety, engineering and public works, health and community services, seed, finance, communications, and code. And if you add planning on that, that's 8. So now we're up to 10. And then we're all liaisons on other committees. I am the liaison for the Community Coalition on Race, the Youth Advisory Committee, the Senior Advisory Committee, the Pool Advisory Committee, and the Recreation Advisory Committee, which is what I have tonight at 8:30. And so that's 5 more. So now we're up to 15. If you were watching the meeting last night, you heard us talking about 2 additional committees that I'm working on. The All Access Committee, which would be for the disabled community and mobility restricted community. And so that would be 16. And I'm also working to get the field subcommittee up and running within the Rec Advisory Committee. So that would be 17. Additionally, we have a series of 3 budget hearings. We've had 2 in January and having another in February, so that's 3 more. And we also are present when there are interviews for staff. Plus, I believe myself and Mr. DeLuca and staff had a couple of Black History Month meetings. And with Mayor Adams, we had some meetings on planning for Women's History Month, which is going to be really cool. Very excited about that. And then there's other, events that various ones of us are assigned to working on. Um, so it adds up to, I think I'm up to like maybe like 17, 20. I'm past 20. So I've lost track. But it's a lot, it's just a lot of meetings, just so you keep in mind that it is a lot. I'm really fortunate that as a freelance reporter, I have a flexible schedule to be able to do that. And that my family was very supportive of me running. That's very important. So it's extremely rewarding. I'm sure there are going to be days when I'm like, wait a minute, when did I say that I love this? But I haven't gotten there yet. Right now I'm definitely still I'm definitely enjoying this. And in terms of the race, so I ran last year, and the race was a sprint. It was a lot of work. It was every single day. How much can I get done today? Um, I have a political background. I was a political reporter in Washington, D.C. before moving here and was involved in other races. And then most recently, I was co-campaign manager for my good friend Deborah Engel, who is the one who is unfortunately leaving us and has opened up this open seat. But I know she would be very happy to see multiple people running because, that's what is so important about these races and democracy is seeing multiple people run, because it raises the question. I remember having so many conversations with people around town, and they were really happy to be able to talk about things. And something that I'm going to really try and make good on is the promise that we're not just going to talk about it at election time. We're going to keep talking. So I've been trying to share when committee meetings are, and posting the agendas and talking to people. And I want to start having more meetings with residents, really just to keep the conversation going, because I feel like we're working for the community, and I want that conversation to be open. So anyway, I'm going to pass the torch on, but I hope that was helpful in sort of, what the newbie what the newbie thinks. And happy to offer any other answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Malia. I wanted to as I said, members of the Township Committee probably all have other meetings this evening, and so that's why we're kind of front-loading this meeting with them tonight. We're going to talk a lot more about how this all works and running for Township Committee too. But just for those of you who are new and don't have as much experience with how our government works here in Maplewood, pursuant to state statute, Maplewood is a Township Committee form of government. We have 5 members of the Township Committee, all of whom serve 3-year terms. Those are rotating. Usually there are 2 seats that are open every year. This year there is only 1. As Malia said, that's the seat that is currently filled by Deb Engel. The township committee chooses the mayor and the deputy mayor every year. We don't vote in Maplewood directly for who serves as mayor or deputy mayor, but the township committee themselves at the beginning of each year choose who will serve the mayor for that following year. So I just wanted to give everybody a little bit of that background before we get to the township committee members so that they can then drop off for their other meetings. I know Malia's isn't until 8:30, but I know Vic and Nancy both had 7:30. Dean, I don't know what time your next meeting might be, but I know that Nancy's got a 7:30. So we're going to go to Nancy Adams right now, who's currently the mayor of Maplewood, and this is her second year as mayor. So Nancy, thank you.
Thank you, Ian. Thanks. Hi, everybody. Let's see. I hadn't prepared anything, so apologize in advance if I just stumble through what I think you might want to hear. I will say that when voting for members of the township committee, I think it's important that you realize that one or all of them at some point will be mayor. So that's the way you vote for mayor. A lot of people get upset. We should vote for mayor. We should vote, maybe, but we'd have to change the whole form of government. And I think the committee form of government has a lot of advantages, and that's what this is. So the committee form of government means that basically we're all of equal power. The mayor might know some things before the other members of the township committee, or might be the contact person, technically the CEO of the town while you're serving as mayor. So you tend to be a little more involved in the day-to-day operations of the staff of the township, which is our business administrator and everyone that falls underneath him. So, it's we passed our bylaws. We revised our bylaws 5 or 6 years ago to basically limit the number of years a township committee member could be mayor in a row. So the number of years in a row is limited to 3, and then they have to transition off so that there's more of the township committee form of government as opposed to, a strong mayor form and then the council, which is what many municipalities have. But a lot of municipalities in New Jersey have a township committee form of government, including our neighbors in Milburn and Livingston. So it does work if it's, when it's working. So, but it's good to have. I think it's working really well right now. I think we have a really engaged and smart group of people who are, focusing on their places of interest and their strong points, their own strong suits of where their interest lies, so that the best person for any specific committee is there. But it's also good to rotate those committees every couple years so that you get new voices as liaisons to the committees, like Malia was talking about, because it can get, you can get stuck in a rut. So I've been on the township committee for 9 years, 3 terms, and starting my 4th now. What I would say, because I was active in the community, not by any plan at all, since I moved here in '89, I just kind of started. I saw something that on Springfield Avenue in particular that wasn't being addressed by the then fully Republican and long-serving mayor, Bob Grassmere. I think he was mayor for 24 years. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but a long time, especially for a committee form of government. So clearly that wasn't being followed back then. But I just started doing some things, being an activist, local activist, which I had never really been before, but I don't know, I never thought of not jumping in and seeing what I could do to help a situation. And that's kind of how, but that was, I don't know, like 25 years before I ran to the position I'm in now. I ran once off the line against my good friend Kathy Leventhal, But that just shows that when politics is friendly, you can still be good friends. And I consider you a really good friend of mine. So I think just getting involved in local things and founding College Hill and helping found the Springfield Avenue Partnership with Vic, of course, involved from the early days too. Just when I was deciding whether or not to run for township committee, I felt like I had done a lot of stuff in the community, but maybe I could have a stronger voice. And really, that is the difference. I guarantee you that gas leaf blowers would still be blowing in Maplewood if I weren't a member of the township committee, and being able to champion that and get the support of my colleagues so that we could stand strong together, because there was quite a lot of pushback, as Vic and Dean will remember, that we sat through hours of public comment for and against banning them. But being able to be a champion for something on the governing body is it's a lot of work, but it's also easier because you have a larger voice and a bigger say than you do when you're an activist in the community doing the great stuff that we all need people in the community to do. So when I would suggest, when you're at the point where you want to have a little more power, if you will, to Malia's point, it's going to be a lot more work on a bunch of other stuff that may have nothing to do with the thing you really want to focus on. But it's important to do it all. And it is, I agree with Vic, it's very rewarding. It's sometimes exhausting. And some weekends, like I'll text, I do this often with Dean, because I just feel like Dean and I are on the same mindset. Like, wait, do we have anything? Like, if there's nothing on my calendar for a Saturday, I'll be like, am I supposed to be somewhere right now? So, yeah, we both, so it's just sort of, that's our life, like that's the way it is. But supportive family, friends who understand that you're not going to be going out with them as much as you used to, or, things like that. It's a commitment, but I think it's really fulfilling, and it feels good to give back. And I've never expected anything in return to speak of. But then you get access to some people who kind of need to return your call because you're a fellow elected official, or as mayor, you might get through to somebody a little faster. So that's nice, but it's all limited. It's all short term, and in the long scheme of our lives. So, but it's rewarding, and you can get some stuff done and try to help make the community better. So I think that's all I should say.
That's good. That's good. There might be some more questions, so we'll get back to you if you're still on the call. Thank you, Nancy. I did want to give everybody from the Township Committee currently serving an opportunity to speak first, but we do have 3 other people on the call. I think one of them just dropped off, who have also served on the Township Committee in the past. Myself, Kathy Leventhal, and speaking of running against each other, Kathy and I have run against each other in the past. We also both served as deputy mayor. David Humer, I think, is the one who just dropped off. He's got another meeting this evening as well. Also served on the Township Committee for many years. And again, also for part of that time as deputy mayor. So, we have some, former members on the call who can help out with answering questions as well. With that, we're going to turn it over to somebody who doesn't need an introduction, who's also serving on the Township Committee, has also served as mayor, and welcome Dean Daffis.
Thank you, Ian. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for making the time tonight. Hopefully we'll inspire some of you to actually join us on the Township Committee. You're hearing a lot of great things about how rewarding it is and how impactful it is directly to serve your community in this way. And I want to thank Ian and the rest of the MDC leadership for doing this, right? Like, we have to be transparent, and we have to recruit new people to serve so that we can make sure that we are constantly the most representative body of the residents of our great community. So so this is terrific. And those of you who have joined, really, again, thank you. So first, I want to say the following. There's a lot of ways to serve your community. You don't have to, strap yourself into a Formula One car and go 300 miles an hour by being on the township committee. You could start by volunteering in one of our many boards and committees. I mean, I think last time I checked, we had at least 24 boards and committees. And we cover the gamut of all the issues or interests that are important to you or that you prefer, from recreation to social justice issues, to finance, to code, land use and zoning, more technical things. There's a lot of ways to get involved. And while it isn't technically a requirement to do that before you run for office, it is a really great way. If you really think you want to run for office at some point, it's a really great way to get started. And I'll tell you why. It's a great way to get started because you learn the issues that are important in Maplewood. What are the challenges and issues that we face? Certainly, we have common themes that all the towns do. And certainly right now, we're all facing the national crisis and trying to do the best to endure and survive in this chaos, right? But we also have some unique things to us, to Maplewood. What are those? Who are the community groups and the advocates who are on the ground organizing on these issues, right? What is the history of what has been done on these issues or not done at all on these issues? And how do you get to know all of your friends and neighbors and all of these community groups, all of whom you're going to need by your side when you run for office, right? So serving on one of these boards and committees is a really great way to get started. And that's how you sort of start getting yourself out there and you become more visible and people get to know you. You establish your credibility as well. While you're doing that, you get the respect of this esteemed body, the MDC, and the Maplewood Township Committee. And it's a really great launch pad to running for office. And that's sort of how I did it. I didn't waste any time. I've been in Maplewood for 10 years, and I'm on my 8th year of serving on the Maplewood Township Committee. I'm in my 3rd term. We have 3-year terms, as you've heard, right? So I got involved very quickly when I moved here. I was inspired by the civic engagement. It was one of the reasons why my husband, George, and I moved here. And I got involved immediately. I got involved with the Green Team. I got involved with the Library Foundation Board. We were just starting to think about and planning for a brand new library when I moved in. And some incredible members who've served both on the Maplewood Township Committee and in other capacities in the community started building a library foundation board. And I was one of the original members. We started raising funds for our brand new library, which fingers crossed will open sometime this summer. End of June is what we're looking at currently. I worked on environmental advisory committee along with the Green Team. I also got involved with the Community Coalition on Race, right, to talk about intentional integration and greater equity and inclusion in our community. And that's sort of how I got to navigate the different personalities, the different issues, the community groups. And it was a really, really great way to get started. And then when an open seat became available, as it is becoming available this election season, I ran for it. And I have to say, it was great running for office. I enjoy campaigning, as Ian and Becky and others on the MDC know. I love campaigning, talking to people, knocking on doors. That sort of on the ground grassroots interfacing and interaction is really what I'm best suited at, and thrive on that. So I had some sort of like visibility and credibility in the community before I ran for township committee. So that helps with fundraising. It helps with getting the vote out for you. It helps with endorsements from the different groups, from the MDC. We are partisan here in our elections, as you already heard. So that's one thing to keep in mind, right? Like maybe this is not your year. Maybe you're not all in on running for office, but maybe there's another way for you to serve the community if you're new at this. But maybe you've done that. Maybe you are. I see some familiar faces. You are already giving back to the community. You are already involved in the community, and you really are ready to go to this next level. So welcome. There is no better time to serve in local government than right now in this time in our nation and in our state, right? We are the last defense, my friends and neighbors, to everything that we are facing right now at the local level. When you serve on the local governing body, you have direct and intimate impact on your community with your policies, with your programs and services. You have direct impact. You're not separated by geography. You're not separated by bureaucracy. You don't, certainly we have to comply with state and federal rules, and we're preempted in some areas because of existing state laws and federal laws. But there's a whole other part of that pie that is entirely ours in terms of how we best meet the needs of our local community right here in Maplewood. And so I have to tell you, I've had before getting involved in politics, I had a really cool professional career. I've had the privilege of doing some really great things. I've argued before the Supreme Court. I've been on the street marching on some of the most important issues in our a recent modern history. As a litigator, I worked on Wall Street, defending the SEC against the SEC. I've worked in corporate, I worked for nonprofits. I really had a very diverse professional life, but nothing, absolutely nothing has the same privilege and honor that this does. Serving your community, getting the trust and confidence of the residents, of your neighbors that you're going to see at the coffee shop in the morning, at the school drop-off line, at school, right? Or at community events over the weekend. It really is very intimate. And for that reason, despite all the hard work and all the meetings and the time commitment, it is incredibly rewarding in return because you get to see the effects of your work in real time. And sometimes you also get to see the effects of your bad decisions, right? It's a learning process. It's an evolution. What we thought 5 years ago was a good idea on some environmental issues, we now recognize is not because the planet is burning up and we're facing an existential crisis like no other, right? What we thought was a good zoning and land use decision 10 years ago may be a little outdated now because our community has changed. Our businesses have grown. We have new areas where new businesses are flourishing, where we never imagined that before, right? So it's constantly evolving, which means what? It means that there is constantly an opportunity for fresh faces, new voices, greater representation, fresh ideas. So you might be thinking, wow, this township committee is pretty awesome, and we are. And boy, am I lucky to be mentored by people like Vic and Nancy, right? Who've served this community, not just in elected office, but in so many other ways, and have so many numerous recognitions and awards from other communities and around the state from other elected leaders. But the idea is that there is still room for something for you to do. There is room for your fresh idea, for your perspective, because we still have blind spots. And all of this is always evolving, right? So if you're going to decide to do this, you will know that once you're in that chair, you're going to have a rewarding experience and you're going to be doing something that you're going to be really proud of, right? The other thing is you really do have to have the support of your family. It's a real conversation because you're not going to see your family a lot. I mean, I don't want to sugarcoat it. I want to be totally transparent and upfront. It's a big commitment in terms of time. It is Wednesday evening, if I haven't forgotten what day it is these days. at 7:32 p.m. And this is my 8th meeting just for Maplewood Township Committee of the week. And I'm just midweek. And that doesn't include 2 community appearances. And of course, I'm also holding a full-time job serving the state of New Jersey. And I'm still in my background. You can't really talk because it's blurry, but I'm still in Trenton. I'm stuck here because I wanted to make time to speak to you all and engage with you all this evening. This is really important to me. Um, so it's a lot of time, and you sacrifice personal time with your family and your loved ones to serve the community. Is it rewarding? Yes. Is it impactful? Yes. We talked about all those things, but it is a sacrifice. And there's a lot of work to do, man. There's a lot of great things going on and so many issues that we have yet to resolve that we need to get on top of. And we have a gubernatorial race this election season on top of the local race. Just right around the corner, we're going to have another midterm election, which is going to be another opportunity for us to stop Trump in the White House, and to make sure our democracy is still there in some sort of shape and form, as it continues eroding every day. So you got to consider that, and you really have to have that real conversation with your family. And public service is tough for that reason, and that's why we don't have more women in public service, because they can't sacrifice as moms that time. We don't have younger women. We need to have younger women. And we also need to make changes in terms of how we conduct meetings, when we conduct meetings, our infrastructure even, to be more inclusive, to allow for more opportunity for people to serve. We have meetings at 8 a.m. sometimes on Zoom because that gives you an opportunity to maybe, jump on a meeting before you head to work. But at 8 o'clock, if you're a working mom, that's not going to work for you because you got to drop off the kid, right? Or the kids. And you got to navigate the traffic of drop-offs in Maplewood and South Orange. So, so it gets complicated, and that doesn't mean though that it's not possible. So long as if you have the support of your family. And in recent years, I think we have on the Maplewood Township Committee become more inclusive in that regard. We have hybrid meetings now, so we don't have to go somewhere in person. We could be more flexible. We've changed the timing of some of our meetings to allow for mid-afternoon meetings or late afternoon meetings. And certainly we've always had evening meetings, and we have a lot of those. So those are the big bullet points. And then lastly, I think Vic mentioned this, and it's a good thing to remember. If you're shy and you want to be anonymous, first of all, I'm gonna ask you, why are you in Maplewood? You can't be anonymous in Maplewood. We all know who we are in Maplewood. We know our names. We know first names. Hey, that's Larry across the street. Oh, that's Beth. She's taking Colin to school. That's who we are. We're a very tight-knit community, and I love that about our community. But when you serve on the township committee, you're not just going to know your direct neighbors. Everyone in town is going to know you. And that means that you have to have thick skin about that in terms of losing your anonymity, having much less privacy, and also being able to take hits, man. You're going to take hits in public meetings. You're going to take hits in social media. And I don't need to talk about social media. We've all had our own personal experiences in social media. And we really can't not be in social media because people are communicating there. We have to meet people where they are in all the different forums, virtual forums and in person at community meetings, to interact with people. And that could be tough sometimes. Even the most seasoned politician, the smartest politician, the most articulate one, the most well-connected one has a problem with this sometimes because it does weigh on you. And sometimes we have some political fights that are really, really tough, and they can get personal. My approach to that is, and you all can tell me if I've failed. I'm not perfect, and I certainly have my blind spots, but I always try to say, you know what, let's disagree, let's fight a good fight, but let's not let our political disagreements become existential, because at the end of the day, the election's going to be over. The issue's going to be addressed or not addressed. And we still have to be neighbors. We still have to stand in the line together when we're getting our lattes, right? Or when we're picking up our kids. So, we try not to allow our political fights to become existential, driving us apart. And I think we do a pretty good job of that. So, we are a functioning committee. The governing body is a working governing body. This is not we do, as Nancy said, we have township committees in the rest of New Jersey, but they're not all as working and as active as we are. This is an active township committee. This is not just a governing body that just focuses mostly on policy and legislative. We actually get involved through our township administrator, who we directly supervise. We get involved in the day-to-day operations. We don't tell people what to do, and we try to stand out of the way of our department heads and all of our awesome employees that we have, about 250 full-time employees, over 400, nearly 500 when we have seasonal part-time employees in the summer. It's a big team, and everyone is doing something to move us forward every single day. And our job is not to micromanage them. We leave that up to the department heads, but we know what's going on, right? We ask for data. We know how services are being provided. We know how what kind of customer service is being provided. We know where we need to make adjustments. And again, because we're an engaged community and because we make ourselves available to that engagement, we hear from our residents all the time. Hey, Dean, love you. Love what you did about this. Good seeing you. But you know what? I think you could do better on this other thing. Or, I was just crossing somewhere. My kid and I were crossing over from school and we got nearly hit. Where's the enforcement? Like I saw people making a U-turn on Maplewood Avenue. WTF, where's enforcement? So again, you have to be someone who's open to that kind of criticism and that critique. And then lastly, if you're going to run for office, this is the last thing I'm going to say, because I know Ian's like, stop talking, please. I'm trying to give you as much information and say some things that others have not, right? Lastly, I'll say this. If you're going to run for office, bring it. You can make you can make it what you want it to be. You can focus on an issue or two, depending on your other commitments, professional and personal. But the best township committee, and we have an awesome township committee right now, every single member. The best township committee members are those who are just going full throttle on all the issues for all the people. We are duly elected to represent the entire community. We have election districts, but we don't have wards. So we represent everyone from the top of the hill all the far west, right? So we don't have borders and we don't have wards. And that's important to keep in mind. And it leads me to my last point, which is if you want to serve, we're looking for leaders. We don't want to do the same thing over and over again, hoping we have different results. We don't want to just be average and coast. We want to do better. We want to be more progressive. Progressive means progress. We want to push the envelope. So that means we're looking for leaders. Leaders are those who lead. They're not led by, but they lead. And sometimes, as Nancy can attest, she mentioned the leaf blower and some of her other amazing environmental initiatives that she pushed. Listen, we supported Nancy eventually, but that was not something that the community understood, was well informed about, and or supported at first. So, but Nancy was like, you know what? No, I'm going to be a leader on this because this is important. This is important. So if you're going to run for township committee and you have to deal with all the stuff I just told you and sacrifice your personal and family life, we're looking for leaders. We're not looking for coasters. So bring it.
Perfect. That's perfect. That's a great way to end it. Thank you very much, Dean. And Dean always provides a lot of fantastic information and a lot of inspiration. And we really appreciate everything that you had to put out there so far, because there's probably going to be more, because we're going to have questions coming from people who are on the call. I do want to talk a little bit about some technical things about what's going on for people who are interested in running for township committee. Then we're going to talk a little bit more about running for township committee, right? The focus has been on serving on the township committee. We're going to talk a little bit more about running for township committee as well. So the important dates to keep in mind, right? We are talking right now about the June 10th Democratic primary. If you are going to be on the ballot in the primary on June 10th, you have to submit your petition to either the Maplewood Town Clerk or the County Clerk by March 24th. That's a very important date. You've got to have your petition in by that date if you want to be on the ballot for the Democratic primary on that date. If you win the Democratic primary, you will be our Democratic candidate in the general election in November. This is, as Dean pointed out, a pretty exciting election year because New Jersey is one of only 2 states in the country to have a gubernatorial election this year. So we will be voting for governor this year as well. And in this year, with what is going on in national politics, people are really looking at New Jersey and really looking at Virginia, the other state that's got a gubernatorial election this year, to see what the mood is of the country. And it's really, really important for us as Democrats to do our work and make sure that we have a really great turnout. I can tell you that for years and years, the Maplewood Democratic Committee would only endorse the number of people that there were open seats for. But Maplewood has taken the lead in opening up and trying to get more people to run, to serve on the township committee. So right now, the way that it works is anybody who comes before our committee, as long as 40% of the members of the Maplewood Democratic Committee feel that the person is a good candidate, we will endorse you. So we could have 5 or 6 people endorsed for running for township committee, even though we only have 1 open seat. So don't feel, a lot of times we get more people interested when there's not an incumbent running, which is the case this year. But every one of you who is interested in running could potentially be endorsed, right? And we think that that's a better way to do it. Maplewood is one of the only places in the state of New Jersey that does this. We have kind of our own little section on the ballot for the Maplewood Township Committee because we are one of the only towns that the Maplewood Democratic Committee will endorse more people than there's an open seat for. We have this meeting that we're having here tonight because, as many people have mentioned, a lot of people are involved in town. A lot of people volunteer in town. A lot of people are advocates in town. A lot of people stand up for what they believe in town. But sometimes people don't know what it's all about in terms of running for township committee or even knowing that they can run for township committee. So we have for the last 3 years had this meeting each year where we invite the general public to come in and learn about serving on the township committee, learn about running for the township committee. And don't, just come to this meeting tonight. Some of you have already spoken to me about what it means to run for the township committee. Keep speaking to people on this call. Keep speaking to people who are serving now on the township committee. Keep speaking to people who are involved in democratic politics locally and outside of Maplewood. This is all, everybody here is willing to speak to you, willing to help out. I've had people who are Republicans come and speak to me about like, what do I want to do if I want to run for township committee, right? We want to encourage people to get as involved as possible. This is a difficult job, but it is a tremendously rewarding job as well. And so we hope that a lot more people will get involved and step up. And we really appreciate the fact that you're even here tonight to learn more about it. So with that, I want to open up the floor to questions, and then we can maybe use the questions to talk a little bit more about running as well. So if you have a question, just there's only 12 of us on the call at this point. A lot of people have had to drop off. Just kind of pipe right in and let us know what your questions are. Anybody? Don't be shy, right? As Dean said, don't be shy. You've got to put yourself out there, right? Anybody who's interested? We've got a couple of people who have not served on the township committee, are not Democratic Party district leaders. We'd love to hear what your questions are, or maybe even what your thoughts are about all of this.
I think this is Matt Guiney. Nice to meet you all. That I don't know. I think it's just from my perspective interesting to hear about the amount of time that goes into this outside of the, two meetings a month. And I think that's important for, at least from my perspective, I help run a law firm. I've got 2 kids at the high school. So, I don't have endless oodles of free time on my plate. But to me, that's just the most striking information to hear from all of you is the amount of time it takes, and certainly good for somebody like me to have a better sense of that. Also just from my 2 cents, it's interesting that there's like any campaigning, I guess, there's the running part and then there's the executive part about it. And so, you kind of, I guess, have to marry both of those. I guess I'd be interested to hear, how much of it you all thought was the running piece was important, or how much you think is more important from a, you want to get the right person, the executive side of serving on the council rather than, the political side of glad handing. How much of the job is representing the town from a kind of a political perspective versus how much of it is a really more technocratic, analyzing budgets, making decisions, from a financial point of view, let's say.
I'll just jump in quickly from my own experience, but then let's go to the people who are
Interesting.
serving the township committee. So when I first ran for the township committee, and it's 20 years ago at this point, I was fairly new in town. I was in a very similar situation to you, Matt. I had just become a partner in a law firm. I had a young child. Before that term was over, I had another young child. And it was very difficult. And I often tell people, I often felt between the township committee and my career and my family, I often felt like I was letting one of those three down. As wonderful as the experience was, and that I wanted to do it again. That being said, I also said when I first served on the township committee, and I know some other people have said this in the past, I'm not great at politics. I'm not into the political part of it. I just want to serve. I would say that the reality is that there is always politics involved, right? It's not just politics when you are running, it's politics when you are serving. You're dealing with 4 other strong-willed people who have very strong ideas. Politics plays a part in that. And you're not just dealing with the politics of here in Maplewood, right? You're dealing with county elected officials, you're dealing with state elected officials. And it becomes very important from a political aspect to keep engaged and working with them as well. So I don't think that, January 1st, 2026 comes and the political part is going to be over. The political part is going to carry through, but the actual running and serving the township does become much more important at that point. And, I'm happy to see what other people who have served think as well. Dean, Malia, Kathy?
I would say in this moment, oh, Kathy, I'm so sorry. Did I just speak over you?
That's okay. Go ahead.
Um,
Just give me some time. That's all.
Of course. I just think that in this moment in time, it's really difficult to separate the two. I mean, certainly there are certain ministerial functions that we have and administrative functions that are non-political, right? Like we have to pass a budget. We have to make sure our roads are paved. We have to make sure we have crossing guards, like all of those things. But even there, the politics creep in. When you're looking at your budget, for instance, the budget is what? It's a moral document. What you decide to spend funds on talks about where your values are, right? It reflects the values of the community. This is a community that reflects both the practical, we want roads paved, we want our schools to be safe, we want enforcement in town, we want nice businesses and amenities, but we also want to provide social services and greater programs and support to the community through our local government. This is a community that believes that local government has a duty to care, that local government has an opportunity to do good directly in the community where it exists. So the politics come in. And sometimes I think like during election season, it becomes somewhat contentious for a little bit um, when we're having disagreements on policy, and the politics are also like in the background, because we're always operating in some context. We're never operating outside of context, everything that we do in life. So, and because of social media, it's very difficult to separate the two, at least for me. And I find that the successful township committee members are those who can navigate both of those um, all the time on the daily basis. They just have great instincts about the politics while also being able to be effective on the administrative and executive side of things. So that's how I would answer that.
Great. Thank you, Dean. And Jane, I know you got your hand up, but Kathy was going to speak first, okay? Thank you.
Well, I was just going to say that when I first ran 2002, I would never have described myself as a politician. When I started serving, and a few years later, one day I woke up and said, I'm a politician. And it was like one of the hardest things to accept. It wasn't my professional career before I served was as a healthcare executive, and it, the world was so new and so different, but that political aspect was there when serving on the township committee because of differences and how you deal with that, how you resolve those amongst your peers, even interacting with staff and department heads. That might be a little P, as we used to say in healthcare, but it's there. And I think what got me through it and accepting that I was a politician was that, yeah, okay. And I'm here to make things as good as I can make them. And it's a politician that can do that, as well as serving as on the government. There's some concrete things. We were talking about the budget, but then there's, stuff that goes literally on for years. And there's, I can talk about.
I'm actually going to make a comment, but
Dave, could you mute yourself? Thank you. There's, I lost my train of thought, but it is political, but it is from a vantage point of serving and making your community the best that it can be, which is the government aspect. And that's what gets you through, even in the hard political time, even when you disagree with your peers. It does get you through that. You are serving, and that is just such a rewarding aspect of the whole work. And if you like people, you couldn't be in a better place.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. Jane, you've got your hand raised first, and then Dave.
Okay, I was wondering if Malia wanted to add on to that particular question first before I went.
Oh, thanks. I figured I would just wait and give you a chance to say something. In terms of politics and governing, like Dean said, I think they do go hand in hand. I didn't, the whole time that I was campaigning, I was like, this is not what I want. What I want is to serve. Like, I felt like the campaign was something I had to get through in order to get the job, to do the things that I wanted to do. And so, and I guess looking back, I still kind of feel that way. I mean, the campaign was really exciting, but it wasn't really, this is way better. So, it is something to go through. And you do get to, like Kathy said, you have to be a people lover because you do talk to a lot of people, and it's amazing. And I love that. But yeah, then once you are in office, it is kind of a balancing act.
Thanks, Malia. Jane?
Thank you. First, I just want to say thanks to everyone, for all the information that you guys have given us so far. I think part of what I'm gathering is this is a lot of work. And just to put it into perspective, I think I just walking around town, I've seen the township committee in different during the weekends. You guys are always there, and just have to applaud you for the work you do and for different programs. I was saying that there's so many programs that Maplewood has that I never thought any other township that I've been to. You guys have amazing programs. You have more programs than any other town for such a small town, right? And I really appreciate that because you have all these programs during the summer, and it's really great. The four of you or five of you are always in some spots. As you're walking up and down Springfield Avenue, you see Vic here and Dane there. So I really appreciate, all the insight on all the work that that's required. And I think one of the questions I had was, how many signatures do you need in the forms of the petition? Is it 50 or is it 100?
It is currently 50, but we know that there have been some changes just in the last week or two for statewide offices. It's traditionally been 50 to run for township committee. We always tell the people that we're endorsing, get more than that, right? We have not seen any instances where signatures are contested, right? But we know that in some other places that does happen, right? So we tell people to get more than 50 signatures for their petition.
Great.
And they have to be of registered Democrats. So
Correct.
that can happen. Someone signs, they don't realize they're not registered as a Democrat. So it's really good to have more.
Occasionally people are not registered with a party, but they're Democratic leaning and they think they're a Democrat, right? So if somebody were to contest your petition, if they're not registered as a Democrat, that name would be struck from your petition.
And they also can't sign more than one petition.
That's correct. Anything else, Jane?
No, that's good to know. Thank you.
Sure. Dave?
Hi, so I wanted to rewind to Ian's rather initial setup and say that, over the last 10 or 15 years, I've kind of grown in awe of the effort that's put in by TC members. And I don't use that word often. You can ask my kids, I kind of forbid them to use it unless they're actually in a moment of awe, which there aren't many in life. So I just want, for those on the call that are considering running, I do think it's a tremendous commitment, and everyone I can think of that's been in office over the last 15 years has lived up to it. I also think this conversation is excellent, and I think it should be shared widely, not just for those considering to run, but for those who want to hear the personal side of being in office.
Well, we are recording this, Dave, and we will disperse it through our social media and on our website because we do want to educate more people on what's involved in serving and running for township committee. So thanks. All right. Anybody else have any other questions or thoughts that they'd like to share?
I'll share something.
Sure.
I wanted to point out that the township committee meetings are twice a month. You can watch them online or come in person. And if you're thinking about serving, I really encourage you to do that. Our next one is on March 4, because we just had one last night. So we've got, so you can go on YouTube and you can watch that. It's a long one. And then our next one is on March 4, and then after that on March 18. And then in addition to that, if you go to our town website and you scroll down, you'll see lists of meetings. All of our subcommittee meetings that I mentioned earlier are public. So the link is there. So let me see, what are the next ones? We tend to have a lot the second week. Dean, that's when we have that Dean calls it our like our hard week. We have like several 8 a.m. meetings. So March 4 is the next TC meeting, and then the following week, if you wanted, well, that same day on March 4th, we've got the communication meeting the morning, TC meeting the evening. Oh, on the 3rd is the Health and Community Services meeting. Friday is the finance committee in the morning. And then the following week, there's code in the morning on the 11th, planning at night, engineering the morning of the 12th, public safety that night, and then seed the next morning on the 13th. So within those 2 weeks, you can get a real good sense of those committees. So if you're really serious about running and interested, I would start going to them now, because the issues that we're talking about, you'll have a sense of what's being talked about, what's being worked on, what's happening, and it'll really help you when you talk to voters, and just so you know what you're talking about, and it'll give you a sense of what we do.
That's a great point, Malia. Actually, whenever people come to me and tell me they're interested in running for township committee, I tell them, go to township committee meetings, like see what happens, see what's being talked about, see what the issues are that are, the issues that are being addressed right now. And also, if you're new to this, right, and you're kind of testing the waters for yourself, go and speak to the members of the township committee after the meeting. They'll talk to you, right? If there's a break during the meeting, they'll talk to you. It's an opportunity for you to ask them questions, get a little bit of a feel for their experience, and it can really help you in making your decision about whether you want to run or not. So it's a great point. Thank you, Malia. Anybody else?
Yeah, I want to emphasize that about coming to our meetings, and now you can just participate from home. We're hybrid now forever, at least for the foreseeable future. And we're proud of that. We should be flexible, right? And allow more opportunity for people to engage with us. Come to the meetings. That's how I got started. I moved to Maplewood after getting involved in some community development and engagement in New York City. Another surprise, another New York City person in Maplewood, right? And I moved in as the Claris building was being considered, right? In Maplewood Village. And there was a big fight about that. And literally there was a lawsuit, keep the village a village. Now, maybe some of you all haven't moved in more recently. You don't know that history, but it was really, really a lot of community engagement around that. And I started going to the township committee meetings and the planning board meetings. And that's how I started meeting people. That's how I met Vic. And he was like, who are you? And why are you coming to our meetings? And then we had coffee, and then the rest is history. It's his fault. But that's another way to get involved. And then lastly, you may not feel comfortable asking certain questions right here, right now, or even know what questions to ask. So I'm just going to put it out there that I always welcome folks to reach out to me. I'll have a coffee with you. I'll buy wherever you want to go. Let's go and let's talk about this further and get you connected in some way or another.
That's great. So anybody who's considering all this, you can see here, but it's really true. Everybody who's on this call, everybody who's part of the township committee, everybody's part of the Maplewood Democratic Committee is very, very approachable, right? And we'll sit down and take the time with you, right? It's, again, it's part of that. It's time consuming, but it is worthwhile. Anything else?
Other meetings pre-recorded and kept on a log that you can go back and watch them. And also, how many subcommittees do you have? I know you talked about having a in total.
Sorry, Dean was nodding and I was shaking my head. So the township committee meetings are recorded and they are on YouTube. There is a Maplewood Township Committee channel on YouTube, and you can watch those going back. The public safety meetings, which are the meetings with the police chief, are also recorded and posted on YouTube. The other committee meetings, and I mentioned there were 7 of them, those ones are only recorded for like note-taking purposes. They're not posted. So you do need to go to those in real time. So there's the communications committee. So, and everyone on the township committee has to chair at least one committee. So there's the communications committee that is chaired by Deb Engel, and I'm on it. There is the finance committee chaired by Mayor Adams, and me and Dean are on it. There's the code committee, which Dean chairs, and Vic and Nancy are on it. There's the engineering and public works and planning committee, which Vic chairs. Deb and Nancy are on it. Vic and I go because it's a very important committee. So wait, I'm up to 4. There's the SEED, which is CEED, and that's Community Development Committee, which Mayor Adams chairs. Let's see if I get this right. And Dean and Vic are on it, but I usually go to that one as well. And then there's the Health and Community Services Committee, which I chair, and that oversees the Health Department, the Community Services Department, which is Rec, and Arts and Culture. So that's 7.
And then in terms of subcommittees, which is what you asked, I think it was Jane or someone who asked that question. There's nearly 20, although not all of them are full committees. Some of them are like, you know, there's the Women's History Month committee, there's the Pride committee, but then some of them are full committees like a Rec Advisory Committee, Senior Advisory Committee. We have a Youth Advisory Committee. We're really proud of that now. So you can find that information on our website. We've done a better job in recent years of having a website that is more community engagement focused. So you can check out all the boards and committees there. And you can also find out where we have opportunities right now. We do have a lot of opportunities for people to start volunteering and serving the town in lots of boards and committees. Otherwise, it's going to be the same 25 people that are involved always, right? And you don't want that, right? And you don't want to be that person who gets on social media and complains about some decision. Be the person who makes sure that decision isn't made again if you don't think it's the right decision. Come on, volunteer, join us. And we need greater representation in all of our boards and committees. And there's a lot of different openings for all kinds of interests.
Anybody else? Kathy?
Just to Dean, is it still online? There's a volunteer board committee application form on the website. So besides talking to one of the township committee members that's connected with a particular committee that you might have an interest in, you know, there's information on the website about this too.
And you can always call
Don't
township.
volunteer for pool. We're full. We're so full.
And you can always call
Becky serves on the pool committee, and I was on the pool committee for 9 years previously. We've got a wait list, but we have lots of room on the recreation committee and also on the senior committee.
Having said, we are full on pool currently, but if you're interested, reach out and let people know that you are, because there will be an opening at some point. So, and I believe those meetings are open to the public. So if you're, you know, you can still get involved.
Check with the township clerk, Liz Fritzen, also about what committees have openings, where there are openings, and she can provide guidance as well. So she's amazing. So, okay. Anything else? Anybody else have anything else that they want to say?
Any specifics about running a campaign, since I just got off of one?
Anybody?
I will say that we, you know, we do have a unique endorsement process where we are able to endorse any candidate who gets 40% of the Maplewood Democratic Committee support voting for them. So that, and an endorsement means that you get access to resources like our voter database that's called VAN, if you've ever gone out canvassing and used the minivan app, and stuff like that. And just I don't know, whatever other resources you can just reach out and get help with literature getting printed, and so it's an advantage, I would say, to get.
Yeah,
get-
I would add on to what Becky said. If you're an endorsed MDC candidate, then so when you go door to door, so let me if you haven't gone door to door before, you don't go to every single person's house. Like I mean, you could, but that would be a lot. That's a lot of houses, and so you want to be really strategic about where you're going. And so for the primary, a lot of times what you want to do is go to the houses of people who are registered. They have to be registered voters, because why are you going to somebody's house if they're not registered? And you want them to be registered Democrats because you're running as a Democrat. And so you can also look and see if they're a registered Democrat who has voted in the last primary or the last two primaries, last three primaries. This is a really good indication that they are going to be a very motivated voter to go out, and you want to get those people. So what Becky can do through VAN, which is the voter database, is she can what's called cutting turfs. She can cut you a turf. So within Maplewood, if you've gone on the Maplewood Democratic Party website, which I recommend you take a look at the district leaders, which are here. Jane is a district leader. Paul is a district leader. Michelle, Dean, Becky, Ian, and Kathy, they're all district leaders. And so all of these different districts, they have the district leaders there. But what Becky can do is she can cut like a door-to-door walking list for you of all the registered Democrats who have voted in the last several primary elections. And then those are like your target voters. And so that when you go out to go door to door, you're really targeting like the most important people that you need to talk to. And that's really important. And you only have access to that if you're endorsed. So
Through the
Right.
Maplewood Democratic Committee, it's a nice resource to have. But
It's
I mean, there are
amazing.
other ways to reach out to voters.
yes,
I mean,
there are.
For
but
those
it's
of
very
you who are new, the Maplewood Democratic Committee we're made of 21 voting districts in Maplewood, 2 district leaders for each district. So it's 40 people who really know what's going on in town, are really connected to how the town works politically, governmentally. It's just a great group of people that are there for you, right, to try to help you out. Kate, you've got your hand raised. Kate is one of our newest district leaders. Just became a district leader just in the last several days.
Yes, yeah, maybe a week. Was it
Yeah.
last Wednesday?
I think it was-
I was actually just very curious, since you brought up campaigning, Leah, your experience of campaigning, and I imagine and think I got the impression that that was considerably more time consuming than actually running. Would you say that that's fair to say, or and sort of what did that look like, campaigning? Did you have a team? Did you?
Yeah, so I when I decided to run, I put together the team, meaning I approached so 2 former township committee members, Greg Lembrick and Frank McGahee, who was a former mayor. I had worked on their campaigns and remained close friends with them, and so I approached them and asked them to be my co-chairs. And then I was able to find an awesome guy in town who agreed to be my treasurer, Dean's husband. And that's sort of those were sort of the key things that I had to set up. You have to have a treasurer because you have reports that you have to file, and you have to set up a bank account. And so the mechanics of it are that you collect your signatures and then you submit them with the clerk. And then once you've done that, you have to set up like your campaign account. There's like it's paperwork involved. You set it up with the state, and then you get your number, and then you can set up your bank account. And these are all the pieces, the moving pieces. And then you have to think about, like, I did a press release, because you want to think about media, talking, getting your name out there. And then the mechanics of it are, you want to get a graphic designer to get a logo so that you can get your signs printed and start working on, you got to put up your website. And to do the website, you got to write your bio and you got to take a picture and then write your platform and your top issues. And then once you have that, you can sort of boil down the website into your palm cards, because you're going to want to have cards to take with you when you go door to door and when you're at the train and when you're standing in the village talking to people going to and from getting coffee. So those are like the basic things to get started. You also want to have meet and greets, and you want to raise some money for all these things. So it's sort of, you can kind of graph it out and timeline it out, like, planning any kind of big event, but those are the basics.
One of the hardest parts of that is finding a treasurer who has some experience, because it is pretty technical in terms of filing with New Jersey State ELEC, because you've got to file reports, how much money you brought in, how much money you've spent. There is a great deal of government oversight for that. One of the things about being involved with this committee is it'll be easier to find somebody who can step into that treasurer role and help you. Just because it is so technical, you need somebody who's got that experience. Anyone else?
Just to add on that, I never did find a campaign manager, so it was basically like me. So, but I had a lot of volunteers and friends who stepped up to help. So organizing that was a lot. And since I had done this already as, co-campaign manager for Deborah Engel, I had a lot of that background already.
You definitely can't do it yourself, that's for sure.
No, lots of help.
Yep.
She had lots of
Can't
help.
be afraid to ask. You can't be afraid to ask.
So I mean, Kate, at the local level, you don't really have, even in a contested election, your campaign infrastructure doesn't need to be fancy or as fulsome as, say, for a statewide race, right? So it really is just your friends willing to roll up their sleeves and knock on doors for you. The treasurer is a pretty technical position, so you need to get someone who's done it before, who knows all the filing and deadline requirements, and they're very regulatory and very specific. But otherwise, everything else is very grassroots and very sort of, local and intimate. It's not like you have to have an office and volunteers working around the clock and a coordinator. I mean, it's great if you can afford all that, but most of us can't at the local level, and it's not really necessary.
Anyone else? Anything else? All right, so I want to thank everybody who, of course, are members of our Township Committee and are members of our Maplewood Democratic Committee who are here this evening. We appreciate it. We're we're really, excited to see that a number of you did get on the call tonight who are at least considering running for Township Committee and want to learn more about it. This call tonight, this Zoom call, is not the end of it. We're all here for you. If you have more questions, we all can provide assistance, advice, support, whatever it is you're looking for. So feel free to reach out to any of us. We will be posting this webinar on our website, on our social media. If you want to refer back to anything, if you want other people that you know to see it. So with that, I want to thank everybody again, and hope to see a whole bunch of you running this year. Thank you. All right. Thanks, Kathy.